Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's exclusive event. My name is Simon Hunter, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. Let me start by thanking our sponsors, M2M Connectivity and Libelium, for making this webinar possible. M2M provide IoT expertise and technology that helps power industries, improve lives, and paves the way for the next generation of wireless innovation. Libelium designs and manufactures wireless sensor network devices for systems integrators, engineering, and consultancy companies to deliver cutting-edge, reliable Internet of Things. Today, we're going to be shining a light on the future of agriculture and the role of technology in helping to increase agricultural efficiency. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the role of IoT technology. And we're doing this in the context of the opportunities and challenges facing the agricultural sector right now, which at the one end of the spectrum include finding ways of increasing productivity with greater environmental constraints. And at the other end, working out how to capitalize on the rise of new technologies like 5G. A great statistic that I read yesterday from a recent McKinsey report states that agricultural connectivity could unlock more than $500 billion in GDP by 2030. And hopefully today gives you some insights into how we might do that. So to help us tackle this topic, we have 4 experts who are joining us today. They include Alicia Acin, who is CEO and co-founder of Spanish IT company Libelium. Paul Stapleton, who is the director of precision livestock farming. He's based in Emerald, Central Queensland. Patrick Eckel, who is the CEO of Melbourne-based technology consultancy Digio, which is part of the Mantle Group, and Simai Akinci, who is an IoT solutions engineer at M2M Connectivity, and specializes in helping M2M customers design and integrate leading IoT systems. So we'll just move on to the agenda. Our agenda is divided into 5 parts. First, we're going to take a look at global trends with Alicia. Second, we'll focus on the opportunities and challenges in Australia with Paul. Thirdly, we'll walk through a case study with Patrick, which will focus on an IoT implementation at a vineyard in the Yarra Valley. And finally, Simai will take us through a more detailed look at the nuts and bolts of implementing and integrating IoT devices and systems. And at the end, we're going to bring everybody back together for a Q&A with the entire panel. We really want this to be an interactive session, so please submit questions throughout, and I'll try and ask them on your behalf. And we want this to be an interactive session. So submit questions as we go. You can do this by looking at the right of your screen. You'll see a side panel with 2 tabs. Submit questions at any stage, and only the presenters can see them. We're also going to be running a few surveys throughout the session. So please, you'll be alerted to those. They'll pop up, so please engage with those. And actually, that's the first thing we're going to do. We're just going to kick off with our first survey. So you should see that pop up any second. And then I will invite our first panelist. So let's kick off. I'll ask Alicia Acin, CEO and co-founder of Libelium, to please join the stage.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Simon, for the introduction. It's a big pleasure to me to be here with you all in this webinar organized with our friends of M2M Connectivity. And it's an honor to be opening and setting the framework, the general framework for the discussion. We are here to talk about AgTech and about what's all the technologies available today can do for making a small farming and small agriculture. We could summarize and make big list of benefits in smart farming, but we could basically group all of them in 3 major groups. The first one would be to increase both quality and quantity of the production, whatever we are producing. The second one would be to increase our sustainability, because when we are reducing the amount of fertilizers or water resources for irrigation. We are making a production not only more efficient from a cost perspective, but also more sustainable for the planet. The last one would be the social part, helping with repopulation rural areas. We are facing the same challenges in all countries at different levels, but same problems everywhere, of people living their rural areas in favor of cities, looking for better way of life, and for salaries, for better salaries. In many cases, that's totally related to the efficiency and the competitiveness of the agri and farming business that we can enhance by using better technology. So the objectives and key drivers for starting adopting ag tech in our fields could be named as product safety, increase the overall company productivity and competitiveness, increase the production quality, and of course, what we were talking about sustainability, not only by reducing the amount of optimizing the use of scarce resources as water, but also to reduce the amount of pesticides and fertilizers that can pollute the wastewaters, and also saving the cost of the waste productions. So, for example, and I'm not only talking about agriculture, but also smart farming in a more general scope. We've seen case studies and success stories all over the world. For example, applied in meat factories that want to be more sustainable, but reusing the wastewater in irrigation, but keeping safe the groundwater nitrate levels as well, and monitoring the creeks water quality. I totally monitor at all times. And we've also seen how can you the very clear examples of fish farms that are increasing their productivity and income directly just by reducing the amount of losses because of preventable diseases in the animals. So the applications here, I've named a couple of them. We can go over the list, and I'm sure that if we ask each of the participants right now, we could even get even more of this list. But I don't want to steal much of the time of the discussion. What I think it's the most important thing is, if this is so amazing and so great, what's holding us back to see this kind of technologies more generally adopted in the industry? So I think that we have 4 main barriers right now. First of all, it's the problem of going from pilots and proof of concepts to real deployments. I totally understand that there is a gap between a pilot and a real project, but you cannot see how the dynamics and the numbers of a real project you are already there, which is very challenging, and especially in our experience in this kind of industry. That's because of the second barrier, and we've seen that there is maybe a bigger technical gap between the farmers, the end users of this technology, and the technology. So we need to overcome the barrier and cross that gap between innovation and adoption. And and you need resources for that, not only economical resources to invest in the technology, but also to be able to manage the project. And you also need the support and assistance. And I always say this, when you see a big stock listed company announcing their digital transformation plans, they always name a big person for leading that transformation. In these rural areas, in this kind of exploitations, we don't usually have a chief digital transformation officer, right? So it's not only about the money, it's also about the skills. And also, sometimes the countries, the states are helping with the investment, but in many cases, they think that the only problem in agriculture it's connectivity. Well, that's absolutely necessary, but that's not sufficient. So, in conclusion, what would be the recipe to get the most of the smart agriculture and smart farming technologies would be first, try to promote at all levels this the adoption and going and this and crossing this gap of going from the technology, innovation and testing to the real deployments. Secondly, if governments are considering about subsidizing and supporting the 5G and the connectivity infrastructures as necessary, consider sensors as well. And I'm not talking about the desire. I'm talking about things that are doing other countries that are considering national networks of sensors. Of course, it means balancing between the funding between innovation and adoption.
Alicia,
And
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've just joined the stage, and I'm just in the interest of keeping us on track. I think you're raising some really fascinating points. But just so we don't miss out on tapping into your expertise in this section, all of these barriers to adoption that you're mentioning, are there examples, because you've got a great global perspective, are there examples in Europe of things that are happening over there that aren't maybe happening in Australia that are working to help the industry, farmers overcome those barriers to adoption that you could share with us?
Well, right now, we have in the European Union a big plan for allocating funds for the European recovery after the COVID-19, and the European Union is trying to address this as a whole, and understanding that it's not only about considering the connectivity as the only problem for farmers to adopt this kind of technologies. And it means the project is very ambitious. It's not already deployed, but it's an idea. And if successful, something definitely to copy, to cover everything from the sensors and communication infrastructure to also the training support to the farmers to know what can they really get from this technology, and also to be able to do this project management task to adopt them and integrate the technology in their daily processes. Okay,
great. Thanks, Alicia. And just one more question we've had from the audience just while you've been talking. And I'm not sure how you'd answer this, but we may come back to it later in the panel if other people want to reflect on it. Do you consider the cost of moving product to market as significant?
Yes, I think that's one of the challenges, and very often you see that the producers are making less money than the supply chain, and that's one of the reasons why vertical farming is becoming a so much attractive option. We've seen that vertical farming, it's meaning a new whole perspective to producers. And for example, right now in the south of Spain, there's a producer of strawberries that used to depend on the supply chain to make the products arrive in Madrid, and now they are building their own vertical farming in the surroundings of Madrid. And the reason of doing that huge investment that can be between 3 to 5 million euros is exactly reducing the transport cost. So definitely, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alicia. I think that's a great point to end on.